This week, Siskel and Ebert review Playboy Richard Gere, learning about love from streetwalker Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. Ad exec Michael Caine makes a killing in a shock to the system. And Vietnam veteran Rutger Hauer is a new kind of ninja in Blind Fury. It's all coming up next on Siskel and Ebert.
Vivian, I have a business proposition for you.
What do you want?
I'm going to be in town until Sunday. I'd like you to spend the week with me.
Me?
Yes. Yes, I'd like to hire you as an employee. Would you consider spending the week with me? I will pay you.
Richard Gere and Julia Roberts agree to keep their relationship strictly business, but love gets in the way in Pretty Woman, one of 5 new movies we're going to review this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is called Pretty Woman, and it's the surprisingly well-written Pygmalion-style story of a ruthless businessman who transforms a hooker into a presentable companion, and in so doing transforms himself into a more caring human being. Richard Gere plays the corporate writer who needs a companion for a week in Los Angeles. Julia Roberts plays a sanitized version of a streetwalker still in need of a makeover.
Give me a ballpark figure. How much?
6 full nights, days to 4,000.
6 nights at 300 is 1,800.
You want days too?
2,000.
3,000.
Done.
Holy!
Further cleaning up of Roberts occurs at a Beverly Hills clothing shop where Gere cuts through their phoniness with good humor typical of the film.
We're going to need a few more people helping us out. I'll tell you why. We're going to be spending an obscene amount of money in here. So we're going to need a lot more help sucking up to us, because that's what we really like. You understand me?
Sir, if I may say so, you're in the right store and the right city, for that matter.
There is some old-fashioned romantic movie fantasy in this story, as when Roberts gets dressed for an evening out with Gere.
If I forget to tell you later, I had a really good time tonight.
The story winds down to what's going to happen when Gere is ready to leave town. Roberts can see that sad ending coming as she confesses to her hooker roommate.
You like him?
Yeah.
You definitely like him. Well, he's not a bum. He's a rich, classy guy.
Who's gonna break my heart, right?
That's Laura San Giacomo as the friend in her first film since Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Gary Marshall should get a lot of credit for this picture. He directs this movie with the same mixture of good humor and emotional backbone as his Cabana Boy comedy, The Flamingo Kid with Matt Dillon. And Richard Gere deserves the Comeback of the Year award for making this film and the thriller Internal Affairs back-to-back, 2 good roles. Julia Roberts, I think, is better than in her Oscar-nominated role in Steel Magnolias. Pretty Woman, with all these talents, is just a solid piece of commercial American filmmaking.
You mentioned Pygmalion, you could also mention Cinderella. This is kind of a realistic fairy tale in which the ending turns out the way we want it to, the romance is consummated, the people find they can respect each other as human beings, and for all that that's cornball and predictable, it's also very effective because these 2 actors are so appealing. You're right about Gere. He has been very good this year. All those Richard Gere jokes are not funny anymore because he's back on top again, and Julia Roberts is so effective. This is a new star, Julia Roberts, here.
Well, potentially. I could have handled a more downbeat ending. I was sort of rooting for that, but I like the Life Goes On endings, like Fabulous Baker Boys. I think it distinguishes a film. But it is really craftsman-like work here. In the writing, it is better written than you would expect here. There are moments, it's not realistic in the sense of the streetwalker character. It's realistic in each way these emotions are played out. This could be a couple dating of different cultures, and it would still work.
You know, one of the things I like is all of the detail involving that area around the Beverly Wilshire Hotel in Los Angeles. The Rodeo Drive shops that she goes into, and the sales girls are so hoity-toity and so forth, and a very nice cameo performance by Hector Elizondo as the manager of the hotel. This guy who's, you know, your niece is upstairs, and Gere says, we both know that I don't have a niece, and the way I know that is that I'm an only child. That was a good line. And then Elizondo winds up teaching her what fork to use at the business dinner. It's almost like he adopts her. This whole subtext about how the straight world is allowing this hooker entree and kind of giving her the key to respectability is a real nice part of the movie.
We're in the first third of the year still, and Elizondo will probably be forgotten, I know, when they mark their Oscar ballots at the end of the year. It is that caliber of a performance. He's good.
You're right. Okay, next movie. And our next movie is named Blind Fury, and it stars Rutger Hauer in the story of a Vietnam veteran who is blinded in combat and then taught to super-develop his other senses until he is a deadly martial arts warrior. As the movie opens, the blind hero is traveling through America, kind of a Johnny Appleseed of the blind, when he's suddenly called upon to reveal his extraordinary powers.
Give him the first, gringo.
What's going on here? Sorry.
He has an old army buddy who is a brilliant chemist, and the friend's son is kidnapped by bad guys who want the chemist to make illegal drugs for them. A crooked casino owner is behind the drug scheme, and he imports an assassin to deal with the nuisance of this blind hero.
Yeah!
Blind Fury is sort of an updated American version of those Japanese blind swordsman karate pictures of 15 or 20 years ago, which my favorite, and probably yours, was Blind Swordswoman of Doom. I'm sure you remember that picture. With the guy that had the hat that came off and whirled through the air with all the knives in it, and the blind swordswoman was able to stand up to it.
As long as you're engaging me, you called him the Johnny Appleseed of the blind. That suggests that he's going around planting glaucoma around the planet.
No, he has his knapsack on his back, and he's walking down the side of the highway. He kind of like the happy hobo or something.
That's better.
Hobo.
That's better.
That's okay, keep you happy. It works anyway on the level of the Blind Swordswoman pictures, whatever level that is, as an action film where the hero's blindness gives a new twist to every scene. And it works also on the level of low-key and low-end action humor, too. He's got that ear, and he can hear everything that's going on. I mean, all these villains have to do is carry around a portable radio with them, and he's out of business. But like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rutger Hauer is able to sleep in a little sardonic wit into the mixture, and the result is not a great movie, but it is a competent entertainment. I was not overwhelmed, but in a silly way, I enjoyed myself.
And I had the same reaction. I think that it could even, they set it up for a sequel. Yeah. And I think they could even make it a better picture. But there are moments there when on the sort of the goofy level of this character, and you're sitting around wondering what he can hear, what he knows, what he doesn't know. In the beginning, some of it doesn't make all the logical sense that he's able to know so much, and you could throw him off just by coughing and running around and making sounds and all that. But as a light entertainment, I enjoyed it too.
And I thought it was really clever the way he was able to cut that cantaloupe into 4 neat sections, even though he couldn't see it.
Great for room service ideas.
Coming up next, the prolific actor Michael Caine plays a businessman who will stop at nothing to get ahead, and a shock to the system.
What the hell is going on out there, George? Did somebody die or lose money or something?
Our next film is called A Shock to the System, and it stars Michael Caine as a corporate executive who learns, much like Martin Landau in Crimes and Misdemeanors, that you literally in this life can get away with murder. What puts Caine in a murderous mood is when he is passed over for a promotion at work.
You didn't get it, Graham. You're not the one.
Caine soon turns on his nagging wife, played by Swoosie Kurtz.
I mean, part of what helps you get ahead is having a wife from a good family who looks nice and a house near George and all the proper things. And you can't blame me just because I signed the checks when really...
Leslie. Come up here. I want to show you how to fix the lights.
Caine also has a grudge against Peter Riegert, the pickle salesman from Crossing Delancey. Remember him? He got the job Michael Caine wanted.
I chaired that meeting, Bub. Well, actually, you have chaired it in the past, Graham, and frankly, that's because George was too apathetic to take care of it himself. It is a meeting of department heads, after all.
The other woman in Caine's life is a winsome executive played by Elizabeth McGovern, who consoles Caine after his wife's mysterious death.
What if we had dinner?
I give up. What if we had dinner?
Tonight.
Tonight. Okay.
And their relationship takes a few surprising turns, too. What's good in A Shock to the System, aside from the script, is Michael Caine, who grounds this preposterous black comedy in reality with his world-weary brightness. Caine brings such credibility to every role he plays, and he does it again in A Shock to the System. Outrageous behavior, to be sure, but it's always rooted in a real guy in real work situation.
I wonder if people realize what a good actor Michael Caine is. I mean, he has said that he has modeled himself on people like Spencer Tracy, who never seem to be trying, who never seem to be reaching too hard for a role. And certainly he is so comfortable in every one of the characters he plays. A real-life guy like this, or even somebody like Sherlock Holmes, a totally unrealistic guy, he's so comfortable inside the skin of those characters that there's a conviction that's just there. It's not anything he does, it's just there. There's a relaxation, and there's a joy of performance that you feel, even in a dark comedy like this.
Well, I was going to say, what I notice when I see him is that he doesn't push lines out too fast. He is confident enough, and Tracy probably did it better, of walking through a passage. Early in this film, we see him walk through the offices, and he doesn't have anything to say. And to be able to not recite the line right away, always be with the line, means it's a real person. That's the way real people walk. And I thought that was great in him.
He does another thing. He does it in several movies, including this one. He's called upon to play a character who has a big ego that is easily offended. Now, you can play that in such a way that people find the person offensive, or you can play it in such a way that you identify. Now, in this movie, I identified with him. He wants the office, he wants the promotion, he wants the job, he thinks he's more important than this pipsqueak, and he's got a big ego to deal with it, but at the same time, you sympathize with him. He gets you on his side.
Well, in that way, the film is a good workplace picture. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that these executives who take these trains and go, you know, they're like cattle to slaughter, sometimes at least emotional slaughter. He shows that, and for that, I enjoy that within a black comedy.
Yeah.
When we come back, Roy Scheider is a hero without a cause in the Fourth War.
Solid lock, sir!
Fourth War, and it stars Roy Scheider as an Army colonel who was a genuine hero once, long ago and far away in Vietnam, but has been an embarrassment to the Army ever since. After sweating out a series of backwater commands, he's finally returned to the front lines, which is the border between West Germany and Czechoslovakia in 1988, the last days of the Cold War. And right away, he's in an eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation with his Russian counterpart. That's Jürgen Prochnow as the enemy commander, and they begin a personal vendetta. Meanwhile, Scheider's second-in-command, played by Tim Reed, keeps a close eye on him.
You filed a report on me, and you sent it to division headquarters, didn't you?
Sir, now is not the time or place.
You filed a report on me, Colonel, outside the chain of command. Now, I want to know under whose authority you did that, and I want to know it now.
Scheider's commanding officer, a general played with gritty conviction by Harry Dean Stanton, begins to wonder why he took a chance on this guy.
You can't be trusted for 5 minutes. You've been shuffled through the Army more times than a deck of cards. Bangkok, Manila, Guam. And on each and every assignment, you spelt trouble.
Finally, Scheider goes too far. He goes on an unauthorized personal mission across the border and is repaid with a surprise visit by the Russian on West German turf.
If you come over the border one more time, you'll never make it back. Because I, personally, will kill you.
I don't know if this is the last Cold War movie or the first detente movie. There's a lot of dialogue about how the real role of the U.S. Army here is to do a good public relations job. The Fourth War isn't really a war movie anyway, but a psychological study, the portrait of a man cracking up because he's been trained to do a job that is now obsolete. The film was directed by John Frankenheimer, and there are some parallels here with Frankenheimer's great movie, The Manchurian Candidate. Both films are about men who become the victims of their own programming.
And so you liked it?
Yes.
And I did too. I was caught up right in the beginning with basically the snowball fight.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't like that just for the obvious reason, which is, okay, the snowball fight mirrors the futility of battle, and that's all that these guys are really doing. I liked it as a visual exercise, and the way that he took what is sort of a dead action moment to lead off his film with. I thought that was a gutty play. This is a film that could have come out of the 50s, directed by Sam Fuller, talking about these sort of old-timers, these rebel guys, and I'm not sure what he thinks about this guy. And I like watching the picture through. It isn't so clear that he's saying this is, you know, like Patton. You knew that Coppola was in love with Patton. I mean, here, I don't know exactly what Frankenheimer's position is, but I like it. I like that it's left open-ended. The guy is sort of out of it in some way, that he gets in the snowball fight, but he's, in a war, you need this kind of guy. I mean, maybe that's what Coppola was saying.
Coppola wrote the screenplay for Patton.
That's exactly what I mean. Franklin Schaffner wrote it, directed it.
The difference between Patton and between this character played by Roy Scheider, of course, is that Scheider is not a leader of men. In fact, just the opposite. He is probably the worst commanding officer I've ever seen in an American war movie. He is absolutely out there on his own. He's obviously over the edge. He's an alcoholic. He's spaced out most of the time. He has this horrible relationship with his family at home and with his children, and he spends most of his time hiding in the woods like some Boy Scout playing at war games. It's a fascinating character portrait of this kind of behavior.
Aren't you glad that there is at least room, at least from Frankenheimer here, to make that kind of a small essay? This film is an essay rather than a big-scale picture. We're living in a film time when it has to be $25 million all the time. It has to make a big, clear statement. This picture is more idiosyncratic, more interesting. The whole portrayal of the country club life that they have, a PR move, as you called it, of having the Army there as PR, and then in comes this wild card.
It's an interesting film. Coming up next, a review of one of the new Lambada dance movies. It's called Lambada, and so that makes the title very easy to remember.
What is that? The Lambada!
One of two quickie dance films brought about by the publicity surrounding a bump-and-grind Brazilian dance craze. Basically, you just hook pelvises and go at it on the dance floor. Now, I had very low expectations when I went to see this film, and yet I enjoyed it, much to my amazement. There is something, I think, about the dance musical form that can override even the most hackneyed script. Lambada is the story of a high school math teacher with a split personality. By day, he teaches rich kids. By night, he returns to his Latino roots and dances at the local club where Lambada is the rage.
Mind if I cut in?
Hell yeah! Sandy, what are you doing here?
After dancing, he teaches the local poor kids some math so they can get a high school diploma. Lambada concludes not with a dance contest, as you might expect, but with a math contest between the rich and the poor. J. Eddie Peck is solid as the teacher, and Melora Hardin is captivating, I think, as the student who is infatuated with him. They're both very good on the dance floor, even though the director, Joe Silberg, doesn't know how to shoot the full-length dancer's body, like Fred Astaire used to do. He's always shooting mostly from the butt up. This movie becomes an instant guilty pleasure for me, a film I'm almost embarrassed to admit held my attention. I'm almost embarrassed, but not really, because I'm prepared to defend it now against Roger's sure attack.
You should be embarrassed, Gene, because first of all, this is not a good dance musical. It has very, very few dance sequences in it. They're badly lit, badly photographed, badly choreographed.
Right.
And you're quite right. The camera is so high on most of these people that you cannot go to this movie and find out from it how the Lambada is danced. I don't have a clue how to do the Lambada from having seen this movie. Then we get to the story, which involves teaching the poor kids how to find the cosine and use a protractor in order to line up their pool shots. This is like, I don't know if I want to call this movie Clean Dancing instead of Dirty Dancing, or it's like a remake of Stand and Deliver. Who in the world wants to go to a Lambada movie that ends with a trigonometry bee? I mean, this movie,
Roger,
the audience that I sat there and saw it with, they were stunned. The last 15 minutes of this movie consists of mathematical questions.
I know.
Now,
wait a second.
What does it have to do with anything?
They were stunned. I was stunned. And I thought, you know, this picture is obviously combining two wildly different things. First of all, I didn't even believe that they were in high school. When it says high school at the end, wait a second, I'm criticizing it now. When they said high school at the end, I was shocked. I thought it was college.
Every high school student in this movie is played by an actor who looks like he's in his 20s.
Absolutely. And I liked that about it. And what I need to say, I'm going to tell you exactly why.
I'm sure you will.
Something that I said, the musical form,
where's the music? That's the key flaw in your argument. The musical form overcomes everything. There isn't enough music, and there isn't enough dancing.
Can I ask you something? Were you bored by the picture, or were you captivated by it?
I was stunned by the picture. I was stunned that anyone would make this picture. I was stunned by the fact that...
There are parts of it that are so bad, and there are parts of it that are strong, and I think you do know a little bit how to do the dance. You just get close and work out.
Gene, I knew that when I was 17 years old, and this movie doesn't know as much as I knew when I was 17. Now let's recap the movies about dancing or about trigonometry. Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs up for Pretty Woman, starring Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. The chemistry is warm and romantic. 2 more somewhat surprised thumbs up for Blind Fury with Rutger Hauer, able to do more with his ears and his sword than the average SWAT team. 2 more thumbs up for A Shock to the System with still another sly and devious Michael Caine character. And another double thumbs up for The Fourth War with Roy Scheider as the Army's looniest loose cannon. Finally, a split decision on Lambada, the first dance-crazed movie with more math than dancing. Gene liked it with all of its faults. And Gene, this is the first time in a long time you voted thumbs up on all 5 movies, and you shouldn't have.
Well, the... o'clock at night, I was exhausted. I was captivated by it with all of its goofiness and all of its faults. Pauline Kael once criticized us for knocking all these kung fu pictures because they do have a lot more energy than some of the stiff, bloated studio product. Same thing for this film. There is a raw energy there.
You're talking about Lambada, but come on now, wouldn't you recommend Pretty Woman or A Shock to the System?
Pretty Woman is the best film of all of them that we named, and then I'd say The Fourth War is an interesting psychological study.
Okay, and I would throw in Blind Fury. Anything, in fact, except Lambada. That's it for this week. Next time we'll be back with a special show in which Gene and I each select the 10 best films of the 80s. A decade in review next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Super 8 motels with over 700 locations nationwide, and the American Express card welcomed at all of them. Don't leave home without it. You can win a submarine in the Nestle Crunch Hunt for Red October sweepstakes, and watch for the major motion picture starring Sean Connery and Alec Baldwin. It's America's favorite jelly bean, Jelly Belly, now appearing at theaters and specialty stores with good taste. Jelly Belly beans. Try them. You'll love them. Well, it's finally soaked in. Palmolive dishwashing liquid, original or lemon lime. Softens hands while you do dishes.